iPhone and Android users, we have a free app. Download it today. andrewhogue.com. 2-1. This is andrewhogue.com, still Australia's first and only 24/7 metal radio station. Has been a couple of years between drinks since I caught up with this great man. Of course, we did a video interview on a program that I was a part of called The Riff Crew. And of course, I did manage to catch the great man playing live with Soilwork on a recent Australian tour. And he's certainly no stranger to the country because, of course, he's coming back to Australia, but not for a Soilwork tour, but for something kind of completely different, which I really dig. We're talking about the Night Flight Orchestra, which is another band that my guest Bjorn Strid is part of. So welcome back to the program, and I can't wait to hear and see these songs live. I'm ready to dance.
Absolutely, me too, man. It's going to be beautiful. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. So again, cool. I know that the band's kind of been a bit of a slow burn in the first couple of years. It was quite underground, and then the output of music was pretty prominent. I mean, it's like a record every 18 months, it almost feels like. I reckon around 2017, Amber Galactic is when people started to go, what's going on here? Hang on a minute, metalheads, and they're playing sort of disco rock, and hang on, it's Speed from Soilwork and Charlie from Arch Enemy, and people just quite confused because the sound is very pompous and fun. So tell us a bit about the response that Night Flight had received once it started to sort of really take off, pardon the pun, especially around the third album, Amber Galactic, and just the response from at least the metal audience first before we get into other audiences. Because again, it's such a crossover appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it like you mentioned, things started to happen with Amber Galactic, and it's probably because we just signed with Nuclear Blast back then, so distribution got a lot better in promotion and marketing, I guess. So, but it was also a very good album and it had a pretty big impact. And like you mentioned, people got a little bit confused, but in a good way, I guess, because I don't know, I guess I expected to get a lot more shit thrown at me for doing something like that and not just another side project that is like old school thrash metal, which I've done as well. Yeah, I mean, this was more of a calling, something that I wanted to do for such a long time, and it kind of fell into place with Amber Galactic, and I think we, even though we're definitely wearing our influences on our sleeves, I think that also created sort of something happened there, and then I think we found quite of a unique style there, our own sound, and I think we've developed that ever since that album. And but yeah, there was definitely something happened there, and our fan base really started to grow, and we've been doing quite a bit of touring in Europe since then, and we got Grammy nominated 3 times in Sweden, and that never happened with Soilwork, which is another strange thing. It's like you start a band that is not metal, but it's all metal people doing it. It's like, so it's quite interesting. And plus, we got nominated in the metal hard rock category, not in rock and pop, which is also kind of strange. But I'll take it. It's a Grammy nomination, so I'm not complaining by any means. But
absolutely.
Anyways, yeah, things started happening pretty quickly, and then I also noticed, like, when we were touring Australia with Soilwork, and we've done so, I mean, like you mentioned, a bunch of times now. I mean, it's probably 10 times total. The more recent years, people's like started bugging me, like, hey, when is Night Flight coming here? When is Night Flight coming here? And people brought like vinyls to the signing sessions and meet and greets, and asked me to sign them, and so there was something in the air for sure. And that's when I started poking Doug from Hardline Media. It's like, maybe it's time. It's like, to bring over Night Flight Orchestra. And then in November, when we were there with Soilwork, that's sort of when we started looking at dates. So I'm glad it became a reality. It's a dream coming true for sure.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Now, as you mentioned, it's the sort of crossover appeal. I mean, being a massive Soilwork fan from day dot, I mean, over, I reckon, even past, I reckon maybe figure number 5 is really when, or even Natural Born Chaos, there was such emphasis on big choruses and you know, the really sort of the clean singing, of course, he'd been doing for years as well, really had that kind of, I guess to a degree, pop element to it, but it was
Yeah.
disguised over a lot of sort of heavy music. But like you said, you know, that really has I mean, I guess you've had some kind of interest in pop music to transition to the Night Flight Orchestra. So it doesn't seem like it was such a difficult leap, even though musically others will go, what the hell is Speed doing? It still has your trademark, you know, choruses and things like that. So,
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's I guess you carry with you the sense for melody wherever you go, and but it's also in a very different shape with the Night Flight Orchestra, and I think it's something that I wanted to do for a long time, and yeah, and I think most Solar fans were not that shocked because, like you mentioned, there's been quite poppy influences through the years with Soulwork as well, melody wise, and we've never been strangers to having influences from other types of music. Yeah, so it's not that much of a shock. At least it shouldn't be to the average fan. But of course, it's still a step where it's like something completely different. You know, in the end, it's like, wow, this is something you can dance to. Like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. You know, it's like kind of, and I love that reaction. You know, and I think it's so much more interesting. I really encourage more, you know, metal people to venture off and do something completely different. I mean, if you just into metal, that's fine too. It's not like you have to be into ABBA or whatever. You know, it's like it's fine if you just want to listen to Terrorizer 24/7. But you know. But if you have other influences, I think it could be really good for you to venture off and do something completely different and actually take that with you to your metal band as well, you know. And that doesn't mean that it's going to start sounding pop, you know. It's really about going outside of your comfort zone as well and discover your, you know, like in my case, my voice, you know, it has given me so much ever since I started the Night Flight Orchestra, and everything became sort of full circle in a way where I sort of connected to my childhood while starting this band and what I grew up on, and but then it was also very important to me that it didn't become too much of a nostalgic band. Like it should not be all about nostalgia. It needs to make sense today. It's not about like, hey, like listen to us, we can sound exactly like Boston 1978. That's not what it's about. You know, it's a way of producing, it's a way of writing, it's a way of performing songs that is lost. And we felt that was missing out there, you know. So ever since I started the Night Flight Orchestra, I think that brought that with me to Soulwork as well, and I've become a better singer, and I feel like I've become a better composer as well. So it's really a win-win situation, and now I really feel like even though I'm still doing other things, I'm playing guitar in a different band with that I have together with my wife called Donna Canone, and I only play guitar in that band, which is kind of rare because I always do singing, and it's so much fun to play guitar as well. So it's more sort of punk rock stuff, but yeah, I think I have everything I need within these bands. You know, it's all there. I get to channel everything.
Now, speaking of Terrorizer, did you ever hear David Vincent, formerly of Morbid Angels, solo country album "Drinking with the Devil"?
I think I heard a couple of tracks. Yes, yes, and that, you know, that's a cool example. You know, way to go. You know, and you know, then we have Nurgle as well doing "Me and That Man." You know, and so I definitely encourage people to do other things and explore. You know, their own, what do you say, musicality, I guess.
Yeah, break out of the comfort zone. Now, again, I know the band was, you know, hit with the tragedy of the passing of David Anderson, and like I said, he's left such a hold in not just your hearts but the audiences as well. Because talking to Charlie over the years as well, I've been aware that he was sort of one of the main songwriters for the Night Flight Orchestra. So I was really shocked when I heard the news, and when I hear the music, the Night Flight Orchestra, I just feel nothing but positivity. It's such an alive sounding, it's a live sounding music. It's fun. It's happy. It's from that era to a degree. So I'm just curious, were you guys aware of the signs of what David was suffering through, considering that the music was again the complete opposite to where he was at emotionally and mentally, because it was, to me, I guess when I listen to it, it's always uplifting. It puts a smile on my face when I
Yeah.
listen to the Night Flight Orchestra. So just tap into
Yeah.
it with David's time and everything that went wrong or went down, unfortunately.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we've seen it all, behind the curtain. So we were really aware of what was happening, and I guess especially me, since I was very close with him, and these bands became our way of communicating as well. Even though, I mean, of course, we could communicate as people too, but I think that was really our thing, the way we communicated the best. And when things started to go downhill, which happened like a long time ago, I saw it coming, and I tried to do everything I could. And but it I don't know, maybe it made a small difference, I don't know, but it wasn't enough. It never is enough, because it's always up to the person, him or herself, to deal with it, in the end, and actually want help and all that stuff. So it was really rough. And when you see somebody slowly sinking into a deep dark hole, and with addiction and everything, and meanwhile you still create music with that person, and I've noticed how he gradually became more and more darker in his expression as well. And some of the lyrics over the years, I think he always had a little bit of a darkness, even in his lyrics for the Night Flight Orchestra, at least very melancholic in an ABBA way, as he would like
Yeah.
to express, because they always had, people see ABBA as like this happy disco band, but there was a lot of melancholic stuff in their lyrics too. So I think he was influenced by that, but then he gradually became darker and darker, and it almost like tipped over. And that's where I felt that I had to become like the counterpart, where I had to be focus on lifting him up, or just write
Oh,
something and uplifting, and to become like that contrast. And that happened especially with the latest Soilwork album, for example. And I think that also is maybe why it turned out so good and real, and there's so much um melancholic vibe running through it, because it's, I mean, my songs that I wrote for it are quite uplifting, but it's also melancholic. But and David's stuff, it's very, very dark, and it created like a interesting contrast, I guess. But also in Night Flight Orchestra, over the years, I've maybe on the surface this band seemed like it's just happy music as well, and it is, it is the uplifting band, and it's all about celebrating, but there's also a lot of reality behind it, and but also David also liked to escape, from reality all the time. So it's like that
yeah.
contrast that me and him very much created. And he always wanted to escape, and in his mind. And I think that's also why he was such a great lyricist, and also composer. And I guess he introduced me to that world, and I sort of introduced him more to reality, and that became sort of like an interesting situation, and together we created some really cool stuff through the years, but to see him, you felt so powerless,
Yeah.
and he was not a live member in neither, I mean, Soilwork or the Night Flight Orchestra in the last years, or the recent years, and Rasmus came in and played guitar with the Night Flight Orchestra, and is still doing so. And what a brilliant human being and guitar player. And he's definitely carrying the David Anderson heritage with him as well. They were good friends, and so David is very much present,
Mm.
and but I also have a lot of faith in this band. Both me and Sebastian has been composing a lot of stuff through the years, and Sensation I wrote, and it's actually about David, but yeah, I wrote music and everything. But I think I have a lot of faith in this band and the future, and David is always going to be present, for sure. And I've learned a lot from him as well as a songwriter. So it's still it's really hard to accept that he's not here. I mean, it's like wait a minute, he's not here. It hits me all the time. You know, like when I heard a song and you know I found like a classic rock song that I've never heard before from 1976. I was like, oh, I need to call David. Wait, he's not here anymore. That is the toughest you know part. This that realization, like, it hits you so hard, you know, and but still in everything I'll do, he's going to be present, and I believe in the future that there will be some really good stuff coming up, you know, and I don't think that we should underestimate ourselves as a band either, you know, because he never would, you know, would have wanted that, and he also knew how many great songwriters was in the band, and we did contribute a lot through the years as well. So it's it's a challenge, but it's a good one, I would say. But of course I wish he was still here
Understand.
so much.
Let's talk a bit about the sort of live approach without giving too much away, because I can't wait to see this band live. But
Yeah.
there's a lot going on, a lot of musicians, and you know, do you sort of get into a bit of a headspace before you play? Because like I said, these songs are melancholic, but also incredibly uplifting. So what's the sort of ritual before a Night Flight show for all you folks in the group to say, right, let's get out there and rock it?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to explain. I mean, we always have a little bit of a pre-party, I guess, you know, and listen to playlists and getting in the mood, and it's just so liberating enter the stage with this band, and just seeing, you know, so many smiles in the crowd, you know. And we've done quite a few tours here in Europe, and it has a very unifying factor, this band as well. You see people from different genres coming out that normally wouldn't go to the same show. It's a very mixed crowd, you know. It's everything from metalheads to prog dads to hipsters to teenage girls with braces, I was gonna say, but like it's a mix of everything, and
Yeah.
and which is really cool, you know, and it always ends the same way, people dancing, you know, and doing conga trains and this and that. But yeah, it's usually such a good vibe, you know, before hitting stage, and which is just normally the same with Soulwork as well. It's just, I don't know, it's a different mindset. I mean, when you enter a stage in a beret in a glittery suit with a cape, I mean, it has to be a different mindset, I guess.
I can't wait to see
But
that.
I love that, you know, it's a part of me, and it's of course I do enter a persona both with Night Flight Orchestra and Solar, but still it's such a big part of me and what I stand for and what I'm all about, and that's I think everybody else can agree in the band as well, you know. It's a beautiful thing, and it's very liberating.
Yeah. Now, like I
Mm.
said, there's so many different influences I can hear in the sounds of the Night Flight Orchestra, and you know, there's parts where you hear and you're like, oh, hang on, that's Survivor, either Tiger or Kiss from Dynasty. Like you really can start to sort of
Yeah.
pick some of the riffs. So when you're writing these songs and then someone starts to play a riff that is kind of a homage to a band from that era, I mean, do you just smile because you know straight away where that riff has come from, or is it a bit, oh, that's just too close. We can't get that close to it, you know?
Yeah, I don't think we ever been in a situation where it's, oh, that's exactly like that song. I think because there's a lot of knowledge, and there's a lot of, you know, influences from so many different things, and of course sometimes you discover it afterwards, like, wow, that actually kind of reminds of that song, but it's never in the moment where you feel like, let's do something like this or that, you know.
Yeah.
It always comes out naturally, and it's really hard to write a riff that nobody has heard before in these days, but it's like it's just it's all. I also would like to think that we also have found a quite of a unique expression as well, even though it's quite obvious where our influences come from, you know. It's and it's also, a lot of people have expressed that it's you know, it's not all about, oh, it sounds like 1982, or it sounds like when I was a kid and my mom played stuff in the car. It's like, there's also people saying like, wow, this is needed, this is sounds
Mm,
so refreshing,
yeah.
you know. And I like that. And it's like the late great Johnny Zazula said, "Taking you back to tomorrow." That's how he described this band. It's maybe sound a bit pretentious. I don't know, but I thought it was great actually.
I like that, actually. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's check out the tour dates just quickly. I love the heading for this title, for this tour, Death to False AOR. Now, a lot of people probably go, AOR, what does that mean? Adult Orientated Rock, or yacht rock, as some would call it as well. The tour...
You could also call it airline-oriented rock, I guess. Airline-oriented rock.
Airline-oriented rock. Here we can go with that one.
Yeah.
Now, the first show kicks off at the Zoo in Brisbane on Thursday, the 3rd of August, Friday, the 4th in Sydney at Crowbar, and Saturday the 5th at Max Watts in Melbourne. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Speed, and we can get you to choose two of your favourite tracks from the Night Flight Orchestra. And I guess just for the sake of such a phenomenal catalogue for Soilwork, we can sneak in a Soilwork tune as well.
Okay. Wow. Should we do the Divinals and the last of the Independent Romantic? That's a very long one, but I'm sure that's okay as well.
Totally.
And with Soilwork, I guess we do the title track of Even Hitten.
That we can. Let's check it out here on andrewhug.com. Look forward to the tour, Speed, and travel safe and be well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Orchestra on